I'm Amanda Knox, and you're listening to Hard Knocks. Hello, everyone. Today on Hard Knocks, I speak with the incredible Lauren Weedman, who is a comedian, an actress, a playwright, an author. She's appeared on The Daily Show, Hung, Two Broke Girls, and Looking. She's been in a variety of films. She's written and performed 9 solo shows, and she's authored 2 books, one called A Woman Trapped in a Woman's Body, and the other, Misfortune, Fresh Perspectives on Having It All from Someone Who Is Not Okay. In this conversation, basically, I have a masterclass with this master solo performer about putting on, writing and producing and performing a solo show, something that I have been tinkering with for the past year and really want to put more effort into in 2026. So I hope you as an audience can enjoy some little revelatory story tidbits from on my end and my ongoing creative plans, and also Lauren's just really wise and well-earned wisdom from being on, the front lines of solo performance, as well as a lot of her just funny insights. So enjoy. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you about anything, but very selfishly, I just want to throw out there that I'm hoping to have a conversation with you like a master class in how to do live storytelling. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, why? Is that something I almost said, is that something you're interested in? Obviously, you just asked if you could talk about it. Gadur.
Gadur.
Yes. Why? Are you getting ready to do something like that?
Yeah, well,
a
I
moth
have.
or something?
I not a moth. I've been working on a solo show for about a year now. I've also been doing stand-up comedy for about
What?
2 years now.
Welcome to the stage, Amanda Knox. I can't, oh my God, you're giving me like a mild stroke. That is so, you're just like going to jump into that's like the scariest thing to do.
Is it? Why?
Stand-up comedy?
Why?
Because to me it is, because people have one expectation, and I like a world like the solo thing is much more open, where you're allowed to go. The audience could be just listening for a while, and you can accept that. But if they're listening during stand-up, I just panic that I haven't given them the drug that they want. Like, here's more, like, keep laughing, keep laughing, keep laughing. And so I like the idea of being able to tell stuff. And I feel like I always think of stand-up as being for men, when I know it's not. But I am from the era of it, so just like drunken frat boys,
Totally.
Only laughed at anything like that was like a sex joke.
Right.
So,
yeah, well,
oh
I
my
mean,
God,
that's
okay.
still true. What I've found is that my best jokes typically are ones that are like, I tried a striptease for my husband. It reminds me of getting stripped down in prison, like stuff like that.
Oh my God. Does that get a huge oh?
I mean, the biggest laughs I've ever gotten were for just really cringy things that have actually just happened. So talk
Yes.
about like just real cringy things that have happened in real life, like a very real story where just earlier this year I went to urgent care and the nurse took a look at my chart and was like, Amanda Knox, too bad that other one ruined your name.
You see, life is just handing the material to you.
I know. Life just hands cringy material to me, which I feel like we can relate to. And so I've been thinking about, so I've been telling my story in a really sort of dramatic, I've been doing public speaking for a long time now. I've been getting on to a stage and, performing a story about what I've gone through to an audience, but it's always been a very just, straight, here's what happened, here's how I feel about it, here are things that I learned from it, not intentionally funny at all kind of way that I've gone about it. It's just very earnest, very sincere, very gut wrenchy, because I still talk about things that are really difficult to talk about, so I get emotional and the audience gets emotional. And the thing that I've been wanting to do is to bring in elements of comedy to this idea, because first of all, I don't like being pigeonholed as the trauma girl, right? Like I've already been pigeonholed as like the true crime uh,
Yeah.
infamous icon person, which I get because I was the subject of a big true crime story, but like I honestly don't really identify with because I was never interested in true crime, and I've only become an expert in the criminal justice system by mistake.
Yeah.
I'm more like I feel like I'm more of an interested and an expert in human psychology and societal psychology, how people become obsessed with like lies and false narratives, how people convince themselves of the wrong thing. These are things that I'm really truly interested in, and that I've thought a lot about. Less so about law. I kind of don't give a shit about the law. It's all just made up rules that somebody made up, and then somebody else has to interpret them. So like
Yeah.
I'm not a law person. And I've been trying to like bring in these elements of comedy to my performance on stage. One, because I think that it's a really interesting counter. Like it alleviates some of that really like dark material. Like I go to really dark places, and then there's this breath of relief when I can and release when I can laugh about it and laugh with the audience about it. I think another thing is I really love surprising my audience. A lot of my like audiences do not expect me to be funny, and so when I do
Yes.
say something funny, they're just like, whoa, where is this coming from? Like it's out of nowhere. But I have to say, I have performed what I have attempted as a one woman, like a whole hour long solo show. I've performed it twice so far.
Where?
Once in Port Townsend and once in Nashville.
Nashville.
I was there to do a charity event for the Innocence Project there, and so I just booked on an extra day to do an event where I would perform the show. And so it's very like intentional, like it's very scripted, it's very intentional, it has like very intentional jokes baked into it. And I found that it's still not hitting the way that I want it to hit. I think that one of the things that I've found is that a lot of people don't know if they're allowed to laugh at the stuff that I'm talking about. So anyway, like I want to talk to you in like big picture as a master of solo performance, talking about dark and cringy life stories and somehow spitting out painful truths that make people want to laugh. I feel like of all the people in the world I could talk to about this kind of art form, you're the best person to talk to.
I'm like, yeah. Top 50, sure. It's funny too when you were saying that. It reminded me of I had a woman take my class who's an actress from Desperate Housewives. I think it's okay to say this because it's in the press too. Marcia Cross, I think is her name, and she got cancer of the anus. And she was like, it's the same thing.
And you need one of those. You can't just...
Yeah, and her whole thing was the same thing. She was like, you know what? Of all the things that I now have to be the spokesperson for, she was like, I have to be like the butt cancer. Like, she was like, it's so not... And it was, which I thought, God, that is a real bummer. Because she wants to talk about it. And she was like, how do you... Exactly. Yeah, bummer. And she was like, how do you do that? And how do you bring that? All that stuff. And so, yes, that's always... But that's the best ones. The ones that you're like, oh, God... and I feel like you can get away with more too when people don't expect it from you.
Yeah,
that's the best. So yes. Oh, this is great. I had no idea that's what you that was what the topic was going to be. That's awesome.
I mean, I would love to talk to you about anything you would like to talk about, but
I'm not like I don't have a dying like I was here to talk about mole removal. Like, no, I was just whatever was going to happen is going to happen. But do you have specific things you want to like ask about? It's most about the comedy, right? How do you bring in?
Well,
is that it?
I just so that this isn't just a selfish me asking you questions, but I'm hoping the audience can also can enjoy part of this masterclass. Is I do want to like maybe just start from the beginning and talk about what is the first stages process for you to go about writing and performing a solo show. What is step one?
Usually it's like when I was in Seattle where I sort of started off, every time, because I don't get those commissions like I used to, but I get a commission for a show, and before I wouldn't have an idea necessarily when they came to me, but I would just start with the thing that obsessed me. Well, the very first one was more about a story that I knew that every time I told it made everybody go, "Oh my God, are you kidding?" Like I knew it was a surefire, like, and I knew I could always pull it out and it would make the entire table focus on me or just make people feel, it was my go-to story. It was about being adopted. That was like my first like go-to thing. And so I thought, okay, that's a good one to start with because I know it's an interesting one. I know that I've tried it out. I know people care. And then I also wanted to add in something that personally was, that I was trying to figure out. Like I also like to have something that I don't know an answer to, but it's obsessing me a bit. And I was dating a black guy at the time, and I think we'd broken up, and I wanted to sort of talk about that issue a bit, about that struggle with my family and through that, but I didn't know exactly how I was gonna put that in there. But I thought there's some way I'm gonna try to weave those in, because I want it to be things that have energy behind it. Yours is like, I think, a guaranteed energy behind it, but it's got to be something that's still has some. It takes a lot of energy to do these things, to keep going and to keep caring about it and then also to have those moments of just like, oh my God, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Like, who cares about this? Like, it's so dumb because you get sick of your own thing.
Sure.
And then you can go back to like why then you have to always touch back to like what was your first intention of why you really wanted to do this. So what I usually do is I'll say, like this last time I got approached to doing a show a couple of years ago, I knew that the thing I was dealing with the most was just loneliness. And I was like, that's not a great story though. And then I had a woman above me who was dying of cancer. And I was like, well, that's hilarious. I'm just kidding. It's not like, but I was like, I want to do something about that. And so then I just start piecing together. I try to see if I share the story with people and see their reaction just to see if it's got, some kind of life to it. And then start sort of picking away at it, figuring out like, what are the elements to this? And I don't always need a clean story too. I don't need it to be, I don't choose things that have a beginning, middle, and end.
Cool.
Because I always want to think that I don't know the real ending of it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's something, I want to feel like this sounds so, but I always want to feel like I evolve a tiny bit. Because I feel like if I'm trying to solve something, if I go into something knowing what I'm going to do and know it, and then at the end I knew that it was about friendship and about about community. It's so, I want something that because I like the idea of in shows, there's times that people just tell a story because it's a story they know really well. And there's times, I like this idea of a journey of like the beginning of this, and I want to figure this out. I want to figure it so that the audience is with you trying to figure something out.
Right. And they have like a new question. They start with a question and they're left with a completely different question.
Yes.
Cool.
And I also don't need to be the hero of things. That's another thing that I'm not interested in being at the end that people, I'm trying to be more likable these days just because I've done shows where, I did the show about working in the jails and stuff and about this lie I told, and it was a doozy. And when I would hear people leaving the theater and people are like, I wouldn't say that, she was a real hero. I wouldn't say that it was really, or it wasn't really ha funny. And I remember thinking like, I liked that at the time. Like I was like, good, I should be punished. Good. Don't like me. That's fine. Figure it out yourself. I know, but that's right. But I didn't realize I'd done the show for that reason. Like there's always some other psychological anyway, I'm all over the place, but basically I start off with going, is there something, it's got to be something that I'm a bit obsessed with. That's all. Something I'm obsessed with and that I want to talk about. I just don't know how yet.
Cool.
That's the beginning.
Awesome. Yeah, that resonates with me because I still feel like I'm trying to figure out what happened to me. Like I can tell you the what, like here's literally what happened to me, but like the so what of it all, like, okay, so what? So this happened to me. Now what do I do with that? What does that mean? And
what does it mean to be a mother? Like if you came to me like just day one or something, it'd be like for somebody who's gone through this journey where you're at, the thing that happened to Italy and such, now you're a mother. Like if I don't and also I also want to know, and when I'm teaching, people are like, I feel like I'm in therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're welcome. You're welcome. Because it's personal stories, and you got to know yourself a bit and know what you don't know about yourself. And I feel like this is where I battle with my own sexism. where I see a lot of, I'd see men doing their solo shows where they're just sort of letting you know what they know already. They
Ah.
know. Do you know what I mean? They're like, I did this and I knew it was right. And then it turned out I was right. And then I did it the best. And then I told them I did it the best. And then we all agreed that I got it. Like instead of, and I like the idea of the messiness of like, yeah, I don't know. Like, what's the question right now what is it right now that you're just referring to? You were saying like that, you said, so what or something? What were you just saying?
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about storytelling, it really helps me to distinguish between the what and the so what, right? Like the what is just the action. It is the
Yeah.
plot. It is, and then the so what is the consequence. It is the meaning. It is
Yeah.
it's how do you digest this, and where is there like some universal truth? Because I think one of the things that I find that I'm maybe always trying to grapple with is that feeling, talk about isolation. Like I felt extremely isolated because of what I was going through. Not just because I was put in prison and I was isolated from other people, but because I was stigmatized as this like evil monster person. And then even after I was, found innocent and recognized as innocent, even, by the vast majority of people, there's still that like stigma, or I don't know, it's not even a stigma necessarily. It just is. I am the girl who was accused of murder, who is very well known in the true crime context. And that means that I'm not just like anybody else. It means that I have this weird energy about me. And I'm trying to figure out what that means and what to do about it. And a lot of people are really curious about like, how do I deal with that as a mom? And I talk about that when I give talks. Like, yeah, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was suddenly stricken with this sense of feeling like I was poisoned, like I had just poison in me. And I was afraid that I was, had this thing, like this person growing inside of me, and that I didn't want to pass on this poison. So I felt like I needed to cure myself all of a sudden really quickly. And that led me to reach out to my prosecutor and ask him just like straight to his face, like, what the fuck, dude? And, like all of this, like,
Really?
oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. So like, I do have a crazy story to tell, but I think the more interesting question for me is it's like, okay, I know that there are stakes, and I know that, from what I've read from interviews that you've done, like one of the things that you like when you think about what makes a show successful versus not successful is if there are stakes, right? Like, are there high stakes? Does the audience come away feeling like you didn't just waste their time with whatever the performance that you've done? But I feel like I'm still in that like space of thinking, okay, here's a crazy thing I went through, and here's some crazy choices that I've made as a result of that. Is this at all relatable? Like, how do you
I don't always worry about that. It's kind of a
really?
problem. No, because for me, it's about, well, I intrinsically want people to like me and I want to entertain. So that's in me already. So it's like I can take a story that's tricky and I still want to make sure that people, maybe because I'm adopted, I don't know. Like I want everyone to still, I don't want to lose people, or completely. And I'm
I
getting
also
worse in
want
that.
people to like me, by the way. I'm a
Right.
people
So
pleaser
that's good.
after being, hated. So it's
Yes,
kind of
that's
a
good.
thing.
That's good. As a
Yeah.
performer, that's good. But I always think that the stakes, I always approach things first, which is, I think, a little different than maybe some with uh, what personal stakes you have, the personal part of it. Because if you are really tapping into this thing that you are grappling with as a human, and that may seem like it's usually this thing, like when I'm teaching, I feel like people start working on their stories, and then two or three, sessions in, they're suddenly like, there's this other element that I'm not sure if it really matters, but because I think it doesn't, it's kind of dumb. But I'm worried that because I grew up with my dad in prison, and it's like, you didn't even mention that your dad was in prison. That's a huge
Yeah.
thing. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I feel like I talk about that all the time. And it's this thing where it's like they're whatever these things that it's always this, a lot of times it's the thing you're rejecting, that it's that's the good one, that's the
Mm.
good, intense. But I think if like I was doing this show in Seattle at ACT, And I remember I had all these ideas it was going to be about, but the one feeling that that was personal, like I remember driving to Seattle going, I'm not going to tell anybody this. And of course, I ended up telling everybody. I was like, I didn't want to tell anybody this, but I felt trapped in this room about what had happened during my divorce. I felt trapped by this. I'm like, if I can just get to the point where I could tell the story of what happened, and I don't know if I'm going to tell it on stage without getting this adrenaline rush where I feel sick. Like I want to be able to, which I know it's all like trauma shit, but I wasn't even thinking in those terms. I was just like, at the end of the show, of creating the show, I want to be out of this room. Because I just feel like I've been in the same story, no matter where I am, it's with me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to find a way to exercise that. And then I put that aside, like I sort of wrote that down. I didn't every day say, remember the journey. The journey is to get me out of this room. It's not that. I just put that there and then would touch back on it when I was working. And then I remember too, because the show was going to be about divorce, but then I was like, I don't want it to be about divorce. I mean, it's hard enough to get people to the theater. But if they read like, they're like, oh, it's a matinee. She's going to talk about getting divorced. Like, it sounds like hell. But then I was like, instead, I was like, well, I know that I've been really attracted to variety shows, like the Dean Martin stuff I was watching to kind of cheer myself up. And then country singers. I was really into the women that were just like Loretta Lynn's of it all, who are, I'll find you, I'll shoot you, that kind of stuff. Like the sort of harsh, intense, some of the lyrics that she wrote, I thought were so cathartic for me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a show. So I was trying to combine all those things. So what entertains me right now, or I can escape in, is this kind of music. So I'm going to incorporate that. I'm going to do some kind of variety show maybe, because I do love this idea of like keeping it really, and then that sort of falling apart, throughout the show and getting closer and closer to what's really going on with the performer, which will be maybe some divorce. I'm going to put in some different elements from my story that I can't tell straight up because I have a kid.
Yeah.
And so I sort of use the limitations to help me figure out what the show's going to look like.
Yeah.
So whenever you think like, I can't do that, there's something else. There's going to be a superpower hidden in there.
Okay, that's fascinating because like another story that I've been wanting, that I feel like I'm trapped in a room about, is one that I don't talk about, which is like how a very, very important friendship of mine fell apart. And like that, and, speak about a divorce. It's basically, I got divorced from a very good friend of mine, and I'm still emotionally grappling with the fallout of that. And I feel like I can't talk about it, and I don't want, like, I want to respect their privacy and all of that. But like, how do you get yourself out of a trapped room of this kind of thing? And how do you use the limitations to propel yourself to tell the story?
Yes, I know what you're saying, and I'm trying to think if I can give like a concise answer. I don't know. I know this is a masterclass.
I mean,
step up. But
you didn't give you the I didn't let you make notes or anything like that. This is just like off the top of your head.
Don't worry. The master comes with me.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful.
With my voice, just based on my voice alone, apparently. But for me, when there's something that I can't tell, I swear it usually I can find another way to get it out, to sneak it in, and sometimes it's just changing names or whatever, like that kind of thing. But then also I have to spend some time with the story to see what the elements are and see if there's another place, like, if with the friendship thing, that's such a big one, right? Or there's even things which have worked for me on stage where I've said, like, I can't talk about this one thing. That's like the biggest heartbreak that I've had over this whatever the situation is, the story is. Like, there's this one room I'm not allowed to go into. I can't talk about. And that makes people like, oh my God, what is in that room?
What is it? What is it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then it really could even get to a point where you're telling other things. And then at some point you go to that room, and in that room, this is really corny, so bear with me. I'm just like, but in that room is this friend that I lost. Like, these things that happen that are deeper than this is obviously not completely true, but I'm like, that are even more painful than the isolation, than you're saying you're isolated, also being labeled, this whole thing of who you are in the world now. All that stuff is okay. There's that I do it. But the biggest thing is like, she doesn't like, the world could hate me or have this shit, but I lost the person I thought really knew me or really cared. And I lost that.
Right.
And why, that's the thing that matters. I think that is it's like the tiny things that people don't reveal that everyone can relate to, that are it's always going to be something that truly broke you.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get people to talk about that. And especially when I'm teaching, I'm like, you're not going to have to go on stage. We're going to find a way to do this. You're not going to get up there and be like, I was anally raped and they all walk.
Right.
You don't have to do that. We're going
Yeah.
to find another way to talk about, we're going to turn that anal rape into some kind of musical number.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But you're going to find some way to talk about this. There's always a way. And like, there was a girl that was doing a show about her dad, and then she panicked the night before. And she's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I'm not of the camp of like Anne Lamott, who's a writer, right? Who's awesome, who writes about writing and such as well. She'll always say like, well, you know what? People should have behaved better if they don't want to be written about. I'm not, I get that, but I'm not a fan. I'm not out to hurt anybody. Even my enemies, I'm not out to, it's not, I'm like,
agreed.
They'll get theirs. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah. I don't do art for revenge, like.
No. Even though when I see it, sometimes I'm like, yeah, fuck them, but it's not me. I still am too sensitive to want, I don't know. It's just not, I don't feel like doing that. But so with her dad, I was like, she was acting like she had to do it in order to tell the story. I'm like, you don't have to. And that's the great thing too, is you're working, you can sort of keep looking at this thing and you start to realize too, like actually, and you know what, on another little topic, a little side thing is that when there's somebody you're writing about, what I do is I reach out to the person. Even if there's been a breakup, I'll still reach out and go, I'm working on this show and I think I'm going to talk about it. And this is my manipulation, but I end up doing it, but I'm always like, if you want me to show you what I'm going to do, I'll do it, because I'm not about trying to destroy anything. So if you're uncomfortable, if you don't want me to, let me know, because I can't even work if I have that voice of the person going like, of course, Lauren turned it into a show.
Right.
Oh, of course she's making money. Oh, she wants to make money. I'm like, I'm not making that much money.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. Like, I just don't want to be haunted by that. So I usually have to either let the person know, like when I was writing books about people, not about, but about myself, I would send emails out and go, I'm telling the part about how you were a producer on the show and you spoke pot a lot. Is that okay? Even if I change your name, people could find it. And that person was so stoked. She was like, that's fine. And then the book came out. She was like, I can't believe you wrote that. I'm like, I fucking sent you an email. But she didn't notice it. She was high. But I just try to take care of those things even though you don't have to. Just you do what you need to do in order to feel able to keep working on it. Sure. And then you'll find a way to use this in the show. And it may not come in there, but I also think tell the story full on as you're first working on it. Just keep telling it a bit and telling a bit in rehearsal, and you're going to find some other elements to it that you don't know. Like, you're so worried about it, you don't always know what the other aspects are to the story.
Sure.
That it's not as bad as what you think, or it's going to be easier than you think. You just have so much, you're feeling a certain way about it that the audience is not going to necessarily feel, or the other people or that person won't necessarily feel. That didn't make sense. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Do I have pants on?
No, I don't know. I can't see your pants.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, good. That's fine. Yeah, because I feel like I went off track there for a second.
No, but you're talking about like if you feel like if any element of the show is going to be identifiable, you just so that you can work in with peace of mind, you reach out to the person who might be recognized through your work and say, hey, I'm working on this. And you ask specifically for permission to like use.
Not not necessarily at the very beginning, but if it looks like only if it's starting to haunt me. It's this thing of, I remember being in a theater company in Amsterdam in my 20s, and the director of the company was always like, okay, before we start, if there's something on your mind that's going to keep you from being present, go take care of it and just come back. Like, if you got to make a phone call, if you need to, because there's no point of being here if you're constantly distracted. And I remember I was like, that's so cool. Because it makes you go like, no, I can actually deal with that later.
But also as if you could exercise your demons with a phone call.
This is true. But to put it aside, so you're not just like the whole time having the person in the room bullying you, you know what I mean? That you're constantly thinking about what they're going to think about it. And so I usually tell people, let's create the show first that you would create if you knew they'd never see it. And then when we get closer to the show, to a performance date, a couple weeks out, then it's like, okay, let's relook at this. Like how much, like first tell it honestly, and then figure out what do you want to do that's more theatrical. I just always like to find ways that aren't like having this room that you're like, I'm not going to go in there, but it represents this thing. And the things too, there's not answers to everything. I don't have like a solid format for how you create something. So I always think it's going to keep telling you as you're working on it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it evolves, and that's the part that's hard.
Can you give an example of of how the limitation turns into a musical number, right? Like
because I want to be entertainment.
Yeah.
I do want things to be not just I don't mind watching people do confessional shows. I don't want to do that. Plus, I want to have fun on stage. Like, right. I don't want to be up there, like, having anxiety. I want it to be, I like to use a lot of music. I like to use a lot of, so I'm trying to think if there's another another example, because I've done this over and over again where I'm like, I can't talk about that. So I'm going to find a way to put this, like, well, the lie story, this, oh my God, I mentioned, I always like, I have to say what the lie is, but it's so heavy. And then people are like, oh my God. But I lied about sexual assault. I said I was raped in college, which everybody knows is a cool thing to do. So I don't know why I'm being hard on myself. When I was 18 and no one was convicted, but it was an awful thing. But something had happened to me, but I was not ready to, I would rather go on stage and say I was a fuck up than say something bad happened to me. It just was, I just didn't, there's no way that I was going to talk about what really happened. That just seemed like, my generation and such. So instead I was like, okay, I'm going to add that story into the prison show. Because it did come up when I was working with the women in jail, actually, because I was thinking about the idea of being a bad woman, about being a bad woman. And so I had a story that I knew was entertaining that people wanted to hear about. It was kind of heavy also, it was about women, but it was about me being like the white lady volunteer who was just everybody was really irritated with me. There was a lot of sort of like, she doesn't know what she's doing and she's going to get killed. Yeah. And so I used something that I knew was going to pull people in. And then halfway through the show, I started to sort of weave in, like you're saying, comedy, like getting people to come with you. And then finding ways to, so it's also trying to find something that is entertaining for you to do, that's fun for you to do, that you like people who like to, I don't know, there's this woman that was into puppets, which I was like, but it turned out being great. And she wanted to tell a story about her and her mother, and she used a puppet. And I was like, it's her show, let her do what she wants. But it ended up being amazing because it was so weird and so funny. And then you're watching, it's already entertaining just watching her with this weird puppet and her doing these dance pieces with the puppet, and she was good at it. And then she slowly starts putting in some other stuff, some heavier things that are going on with her. So I always think, that's one thing is, again, trying to find, and I'm trying to think of the best example was the divorce stuff, was me trying to handle the topic of what happened during my divorce without seeming like just a bitter divorce lady who was exposing too much.
Yeah, sure.
And so I just found things that were entertaining for me to do on stage. Like during the country western variety show thing was fun. Mm-hmm. And so the same way, like if stand-up comedy is, that to me is already a solo show. The idea of Amanda Knox doing stand-up comedy is just like, what? Like that is so, that already is very kind of, could be its own weird little solo show, right?
Sure, yeah. And that's what I've been doing so far. But I'm trying to like elevate it. I'm trying to make, like, I don't want to lose the sort of gut wrench. Like I feel like I really know how to tell my story in a gut wrenching way. And I know how to joke about it, but some things that I think are funny, I don't know if necessarily my audience is so I'll give you an example. Like I got tons of laughs when I performed in Port Townsend. I got almost 0 laughs when I performed in Nashville. And I thought that was so interesting because I was like, I am telling the exact same jokes, but is there something about
also the parts of the country, it's like the Northwest is very, they can laugh at darker things because they look at those things, And I'm not saying that Nashville is just all, they're all, but if I perform in the Midwest compared to being in LA or being in especially the Northwest is amazing because they just, or you can go to darker places
Yeah.
and they can
I was
laugh.
wondering, like, I did want to ask, because you have such strong ties to Seattle, even though you're not from Seattle. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if that even meant something, because I've grown up here. I am a Pacific Northwest person, and it never occurred to me that we are like we have like a darkness to us. And like I remember, but then I remember my prosecutor, when he was interviewed about me, he said something at one time that I must be a bit like of an anarchist because I'm from the Pacific Northwest, which is where Ted Bundy is from. And I was like, what
Yeah,
what are
he's
people
the poster boy of anarchy. Yeah, that's why he's so cool.
like
No, but I don't think, yeah, there is. I did the first time I drove into, or the taxi driver was driving into to Seattle, and I was going to interview for an internship at Empty Space Theater. And the cab driver the whole way was like, that's where the Green River Killer killed. That's where the, happy face, whatever, baby man, he killed over there. And it was like a serial killer, tour through there. And I was like, well, this is a very heady place. But the audiences also are aware of behaviors. They're not scared of differences. They're not scared. They don't have this other thing so much, that the messiness of humanity is a bit more. In the South, it's like, I was just on a podcast the other week. This guy he's in Virginia. He's from Indiana. And it was about, he was talking about our neighbor, because I grew up next to him. And he was saying what idyllic childhood we had. I go, there was 3 suicides on our block. And he goes, okay, wow, didn't expect to. And then after it was over, he goes, wow, you really had to bring out. I go, well, this podcast is about money. How can you not talk about suicide?
Yeah.
If you're talking about money. I go, it's a heavy thing. And he was like, didn't quite expect it. You could talk about that in Seattle and people would be
we wouldn't blink an eye.
Yeah, totally. But the other thing I was going to say, if you were, this thing that you just said about how that you make things that you think are funny and the audience is like, I would lean into that. The idea of you going around making everybody uncomfortable. You're
kind of my go-to thing.
Yes, I'm just I would take the thing anytime. That's where I think the comedy is, in things like the things that make that you deal with, the fact that you are being a stand-up that gets no laughs. It would almost make that a thing of just I'm going around making everybody just quiet. And then you're like, I thought it was funny when she, whatever,
sure.
Whatever the humor is, because that shows who you are so much. And then if you own it, the things where you think you don't have to be a victim of anything in solo shows. That's one of the things I love, is you have this power. You can talk to the playwright, ask them to make it different. You don't have to go, well, what if this happens? Well, then build it in that you're in control of that. That they're not going to get it. You're going to then lean into that more, that you're going to make it even more uncomfortable. And put in a laugh, a fake laugh. You know what I mean? Or that have somebody laugh, backstage. Or there's you could be an ongoing joke that there's somebody backstage who thinks you're hilarious. The crew guy thinks I'm really funny, and then that becomes funny. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
so
totally.
Everything that you think, I should, not everything, but you have to I always think, give it a second. The stuff that you're like, oh God, that's the bad part, or this is what went wrong, or this is what I better not talk about that. That's the faily part. That could be the good stuff. Use it, because it's good to sort of be so the audience knows that
right. Okay
as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
you would talk. You're not like a dancer. You're not like a tap dancer or something, right? You don't.
No, I'm not. I'm not a tap dancer. I mean, I did musical theater in high school. I did theater in high school, but that's my mastery goes as far as that.
Your entrance, what's the most shocking thing? We're going to see Amanda Knox, the story. And but without being so corny, it's there must be something.
Well, I thought about what would be a fun way to get on stage, and that would be to cartwheel on stage, because very famously the police said that I was doing cartwheels in the police station. I wasn't doing cartwheels into the police station, but I thought I might cartwheel on stage for the sake of the audience.
I would say put that in the middle. I have a note for you. I wouldn't say lead with it. I would say that let them, because they know who you are.
Okay.
They already know who you are. It's more coming out and starting whatever way it is. But then in the middle, if something happens, let's say you're telling a story, and you're I don't know all your stories. It's you're and my mother was going into the hospital, and I didn't know how to process that, and then you do a cartwheel. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're taking the moment and putting it somewhere else.
Okay.
Taking elements like so. Okay, so that's good. That's what I should have said. Is that I will, if I look at a story, I'll write down the different. I have cards. I use index cards because I like. Which it's funny because I always use them. They use them in Hollywood for writing, but now when I use them, I feel like I look like a schizophrenic at Denny's or something. Where
Yeah,
I'm like, I work.
with the red yarn between them.
Yes, that's what I do because I guess I'm more visual. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't sit and write in front of a computer. I
Yeah.
like to like see stuff, and so I'll think, what are the elements? Like like the cartwheel, the this, the that, and then I put them all out. I'll have those elements to a story, and then I'll put like, okay, what are the secrets that people don't know that I think maybe I wouldn't tell necessarily. That I don't know if that like maybe the loss of your friend, that thing, that stuff that's like more, that you think are secrets.
Yeah.
And not and you put those out and decide you're not going to use all of them. You're just putting it all out. And then because sometimes there's this other story that you cannot see yet unless you put it all out. And then you can also, okay, this stuff, and then you can have like, and I also have this, I'll have a stock of cards that are about things that I find like entertaining, or that like whatever, like what are my hobbies, what I love, like just whether it be, usually it's music.
Yeah, for me it's music as well. I'm trying to introduce musical elements to mine as well. So, but like
music is the best. It's the best. It's for transitions. It's an automatic mood changer. It's if you can't bring it as an actor, like a lot of times I don't know that I could get it up on stage for certain things. Music can always get it up. Like you put that and it gets people feel something
totally
immediately with certain kinds of music. And you can tell something really serious and then blast in some music that seems sort of like, oh, but brings you, either heightens a moment or brings you to the next moment. But for sure, adding in, you've got it's a lot of pressure almost because you've got such a big story.
Yes, exactly. And so it's like, I mean, that's the fucking like problem of my life is I have this like big fucking story and I'm trying to do my very best with my life and also have my life not be this huge fucking story.
Right. But I think then put that aside and say it's not going to be about that story. What's the other thing that what's the other one? And it could just be fed through because everybody knows it.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell it again if you didn't want to. You could just tell a whole different thing of like, if I could do a show, like what's the thing right now that you're grappling with? What's the thing that is haunting you that you can't? I would look at that first,
okay.
And then find let it come in little pieces.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of telling it all the way, because again, and I think too, it would shift something in you then to be focused on something different.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you aren't. I know you have in your lifetime focused on different things, but it's always there. Always there. Whose show have you seen that you liked solo wise? Have you seen anybody?
I really like Mike Birbiglia. I think
he's so likable.
And I love that he is willing to like surprise his audiences. I love the way that he ended Old Man at the Pool. Where he just like had darkness descend on the audience. Like they just died. I thought it was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, other solo shows that I really like.
Well, he's really confident. That's the thing with him is that he has he's not a success. He's had a lot of success. People like him. He's likable. He's a likable guy, and he's likable in a big. The comedians like him. He's in with the cool kid. Like this is all better. Like he's in, so he has a very easy time up there, and everyone just likes him.
Yeah,
it's harder as a woman to get up there.
Yeah,
if you're not known.
Yeah,
and if you're not sort of like. Yeah, but yes, I just think because I know people always like him who do. But what about, have you ever seen Fleabag?
I love her. I haven't seen the stage show, but I loved the show, and I should see the stage show. And she's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I aspire to have the confidence that Mike Birbiglia has on stage.
Me too. I'm never going to get there. I don't have this. I'm not a white male. I don't have this intrinsic. I always have a little bit of self-hatred that I carry with me. Or like questioning. Like everyone's like, "What is she doing up there?" Like yes,
that's
he doesn't
something.
Have that.
Yeah,
he does not. He'll say he does a little bit. Listen, I'm acting like I know. I'm like, but he's lying. But I mean, it's a different battle if you're not a known performer. You got to find ways that on stage that you're. I don't know, find ways to feel safe up there. And I swear the thing that you're most worried about is usually, it's kind of like your vulnerability is your superpower.
Yeah.
Like, because Sorry, what else about Fleabag? What's great about her, if you see her, is that you realize you can use voiceovers, you can use like you can create these, you can go, you can be as weird as you want, like as weird as you actually are. That's the other thing, is trying to get down to how I don't know, like the little you could really you could like watching weird European film or something, watching stuff that sort of that realizing that you could have a speaker on stage that represents a character, and that person talks out of the speaker that is put inside a turkey. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like weird shit like that. Like there's something weird that's I love that about solo theater, the artsy, the fact that you can just sort of do whatever you want. And it's like taking a story and then like puffing up the what's the word I always use? I don't remember, but anyway, just the idea that you can theatricality, you can just do some is really fun, and finding one aspect to your story that you're going to make sort of magic realism.
Sure. Okay.
I think that kind of stuff, and I think Fleabag, if you watch her, she does a bit of that, where she does, it's very inspiring. But I don't know where you see that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no.
What else?
So I wanted to talk about you're pretty famous for dishing out painful truths. How do you get the confidence to do that?
I don't know. I think that I guess I feel like whenever I go into an environment, I do end up there's a loneliness to being a human that I find really hard to handle, intolerable. You know what I mean? Like just the loneliness of being, and I'm sure, from my childhood or whatever, of just feeling very isolated when bad things would happen and I could not tell anybody. And then, and now in fact, I was just telling somebody the other day about how when I was younger, like in 7th grade, my church camp went to Kings Island, this like amusement park. And I was sitting next to the youth group director, who everybody loved because he was a clown. He did clowning. Like he was hilarious. I mean, and somebody sneezed. We're going downhill and the guy in front of me sneezed. And his big wad of the snow, and it went right in my mouth. And I was like,
God.
Yeah, I know. You're welcome. And I took it all out. I remember it came out in one big glob, and I wiped it on the youth group director's sleeve. And then I spent the rest of the day in the church van, and I told everyone, like, I have the flu. I don't feel good. And the whole time I was like, oh my God, who's going to ever kiss me? I've had another man's snot in my mouth. And I've told that story since high school. I told it in high school, I got a big laugh, and I told him about, and I've, and then I told it another time in my life where I'd end it with sort of like, I didn't realize that, that would be a selling point down the line, like, and then now when I look at it, I think, oh, that's shame. So I didn't sneeze in my mouth. I didn't ask him to sneeze in my mouth.
Right.
It just happened to me. And then I felt really ashamed.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'm gross.
Yeah.
I'm gross.
And that makes no sense.
Yeah. And I couldn't shake that. And so anytime something happened to me, most it was with dealing with some older men in a comedy club, excuse me, I just assumed I did it, that I did this. So when I go into environments, it's somehow connected, I swear, but it's like, if people don't talk, it used to be like, if I don't hear somebody confess to me or tell me who they really are or how they're really doing, I felt too lonely. Like I just wanted to really connect with people. I wanted to feel like what are you sitting with? Like what are you carrying around all the time? I mean, I want to tell mine too, but you go first.
Here's a question then. So speaking about shame, one of the things that I feel like I'm still dealing with to this day is anti-shame, in the sense that like I know that what happened to me is not my fault. But there are a lot of people out there who still want me to feel like what happened to me is my fault and that I should be ashamed of what happened, and therefore I should be hiding my head in the sand. Like a decent person in my situation would hide their head in the sand, would hide away, would not talk about what happened to them. And instead, here I am just flagrantly, not being ashamed of this thing that happened to me. How dare I? What's that all about?
Well, I went through this with the jail show about the lie. And I would have people coming up to me. No, actually, no, I have to tell the whole thing. It was one woman in particular in Portland. And she wanted to, because I had people who would love the show, like would act, and then people who were, I watched, usually women. And then a lot of men just like, and they'd say like, I loved it. My husband, not so much. And that always hurt my feelings too. People thought that I would be like, like, oh, I don't care. I'm just telling it. And I was always like, he didn't like, and I'd feel a little bit like, wow, anyway. But this woman who came, who was such a big support, and we went out afterwards to have, because anybody who was like really supportive, they were always surprised that I was like, do you want to hang out?
Yeah. Oh, please tell me more how much you liked the thing that I worked really hard on.
I could use a little support right now.
Yeah.
And the solo thing is just already, again, back to the lonely. It's kind of, you're up there by yourself. And so, anyway, so she was like, anybody in that audience who's rejecting you has never looked at that part of themselves, hasn't accepted the fact that they lie, that they have lied, that they've done awful things, maybe not as big or as public, but they've done a form of that, and they just do not want to look at that in themselves. And so it's truly that thing, just like they say with criticism, it's never about you. It's always about them. And I was like, well, I get that, but I also don't know if that's going to really help. But the more that I think about that, and the more that, and I also love trying to figure people out, the psychology about it. Like even with the Trump thing now, like I get mad, but I'm not as black and white. I'm not just like, you tell that piece of shit.
Yeah, no, neither am I. Yeah.
I'm always like, well, I want to understand. I want to know why.
Yeah.
And I just want to understand it more. And I think that understanding the people that are doing that, or what they're saying, why they say that, why anybody would come up and tell somebody else what they should have done, and if they're judging you for these, to me, but it's only easy to do that once you get over your own shame. Like if you have, like I have told this story so many times, like I did that rape lie show many, 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 many times. And so I experienced people disliking me, and that was, and I kind of enjoyed it at first secretly, because I also I was just like, yeah, give it to me, like I deserve that. But then eventually I did it so much where I could see it almost as a story, and then just watch their reaction. And what she said was a big deal. That woman saying they haven't looked at that themselves, so they're reacting out of that, right? And that's how people are, with you as well. It's like anybody who's telling somebody else about their life and what they should or shouldn't have done. It's like, that's like, what's going on with you? Like, what happened to you? Which sounds so Seattle, almost, to be like, well, I wonder what happened to you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
but that's a very painful time.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my impulse. Is I do feel like a lot of people finding it very easy to project on me, and I'm like, why is that? Why am I such a projectable face?
Because you're not a person. You're not a full human to people. It's like you're a story, and and that's something too. Like I was in Glamour magazine, and this article came out that said, and they didn't let me control the title of the article. They asked me to tell my story, and I thought that I was going to be touring college campuses, talking to girls who had maybe gone through sexual assault. I thought I was going to be able to help girls.
Yes.
At college.
Yes.
And how scary that first and second year. Some people lose their minds this first two, and I was like, I'm going to help women. I'm going to be, and then Glamour magazine, they paid me more money than I'd ever been paid before. And they paid me ahead of time. They gave me it up front. And I just knew nothing. And so I was just like, I got $10,000. I was like, woo, you get not paid. You get not paid. Like I was so excited and I wrote the story out, and they completely rewrote it. And there are elements to it, but they turn it into like glamour speak. They're like, I was feeling so bad about myself. And then I realized that whatever, it just all did not sound like my voice. Oh. And
they didn't even run that final edit by you?
They showed me. I made the changes back. Like they sent it to me, and I was like, oh God, no. And I went back in and put back in my humor and and then the editor goes, you are never to change. And she got mad at me. She goes, I don't even know that she goes, you can't do that. You can't go in there. Like once I show you something, that's it. And then I was like, oh no. And I talked to my manager. We're like, we got to pull out. And I suggested the title. I wanted it to be called Wreckage. And they're like, no, you can't control the title. And they didn't even tell me what they're going to title it. And they used a picture of me that would look like I was like being sexy or something, as if like I lied about being raped and I'll do it again.
Oh no.
It looked so awful. And the title was I Lied About Being Raped. And I remember I looked at it, And my friend was laughing, like, because I'm around these comedy women, and she was like, "It's hilarious. Do a whole series. I died in 9/11." She was like, "Own it." And I was like, "That's not me. I'm not." I went home and I was in the shower, I was crying, crying, crying. I was like, it's over for me. And then the thing that got me through it, at least in that one, the shower session with myself, is I was like, I did picture my tombstone, like it's such a corny, like death thing of like, if it was on there, it said she didn't, like she was scared to really stand behind her or whatever. Like she was scared, like she died scared and victimized or whatever. I was like, I just don't want that. And they're going to do what I did tell the truth. And it is really messy. And not a lot of people are going to absolutely vilify me. But then other people who recognize it will see me. And it's just not for everybody. Not every show is for everybody. And I get this now with art. I'm painting a lot, and people are like, I watch people dislike it, and it's so hard because I get it. That's art. But then I'm like, it's really strengthening to go like, that's okay. They are different people. They went to school for it. That they look at you, whatever. So it's like sorry, one more thing is that I also had to be taught by this director not to hate my audience, because sometimes I would feel when I did this show about the lies stuff, where I would feel people, it would get really quiet and they wouldn't laugh at stuff like you're talking about. And I would start to dislike them. And I basically was like bowing and flipping them off at the same time. And I would get off stage really quick. I wasn't literally doing that, but with my energy, I was flipping them off. And she was like, you got to let them be there. You did the show. They're allowed to be out there. And I remember, so I started to do this ritual before I go on stage where I would go, you're all allowed to be here. You're allowed to leave. But there's somebody, it was true. There's always one person. Like I heard about somebody who brought their 90-year-old aunt, and I was all mad at the old people during these during these equity runs, because they were awful audiences. I thought they're so quiet, and it takes them forever to get to their seats, and then they fall asleep. I was very bitter about it. And then she tells me years later, my aunt talked about you and that show all the time. She still remembers it. She still talks about it. They're just not very vocal. And I was like, you see, Lauren, you didn't fucking know. You don't know what's going on with people. It's not your business. They're allowed to be there. You figure out why you're doing it. And I have to remind myself, I have to write it down sometimes, because I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I'll have to I'll pick people that have suffered for their art a little bit, who I look up to, where I'm like, I'm doing it. Or one person, like the divorce show, I did it for this intern's mom. In the middle of the divorce rehearsal, I was like, I don't want to do a show about divorce. And this intern who never spoke, she like raises her hand. She's like super timid. And she was like, I just want to say that I was raised by a single mom. And if she would have heard anybody talk about what it was like, it just would have meant a lot to her. And I was like, okay, that's all I need.
Yeah.
It's all, and to always remember that, because you end up just focusing on the people that don't want to deal with it or whatever,
Yeah.
And I think that's true for a lot of different subjects.
Yeah. Okay. I have one last question before I let you go, but I feel like this is an ongoing conversation that I want to continue having with you.
It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to talk about. Yeah.
Okay. So the one last thing is theater performance, especially live performance, requires a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
How the hell do you balance that with having a life? Because I am also a mom, and I am responsible for being in the lives, being present for two people, and also my husband. How do I do this? Is it possible for me to do this?
It is possible, but it's everything shifted after I had a kid, for sure. Okay. I don't do the same kind of level. Well, I don't get asked to. There's not the kind of money, but you could get support. That's a little awkward to mention, but I mean, you could, like, people are producing it. That's, it's nice to have the support.
I've been talking to the Seattle rep,
Oh, excuse me. I gotta go. I'm just kidding. No, that's perfect. So if you did something at the rep, that's an equity run where you have to rehearse and you have to, like, it is a lot of energy, and it will, but it's only for it's for a finite amount of time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. For me, it was always hard, but the only thing that helped was that I mean, you have a partner and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you have some support in that way. But for me, I had to deal with being tired, being physically worn out and stuff a lot. And I had to learn how to be in this place of not being done with the show or feeling bad about it, or feeling, it's that process thing where it's not going to feel right for a while. And you have to be okay living in that place of like, well, that felt like a really shitty rehearsal, or that, because I'd be tired.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're not bringing your all the time.
Yeah.
Or being able to, And I was like, okay, so I have to remember, and hopefully the director, you have to have a director too that's good about, reminding you of that, and that you only work for a finite time, and that you don't. And for me, I used to be obsessive about it, and I was proud of it. That I was like, I was up all night, man, like, and I finally broke it. Like, that's not how that's gonna go. Like, you can't do that anymore.
I don't work like that.
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah. And your kids it has to, you have to have enough energy to also be a parent. But it's like just having a job, like having a full-time job for a while, and putting yourself. That's really exciting. Actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. I'm just trying to figure it out. And I love how you've given me a lot of ideas for how to break apart what I've already done and reconfigure it so that it feels like I'm asking new questions of myself, which is
enjoying
what
you're
exciting
doing on
to me.
stage.
Yeah.
Yes, doing something that you honestly aren't, because sometimes I get to put you just think, what do they want to hear? What do they want? And same with the directors, the people in the theater, they're sort of like, well, the audience, fair enough. But in the very beginning, it's got to be like, whether they know about it or not, like the secret thing of like, well, I want this, or I want to be on stage, and even dumb stuff where you're like, I want to feel, I don't know, sexy is the wrong word, but like good. I want to feel good out there. I want to look, I want to be this. I want, like, you've got to sort of always be putting that out there too, so that it's, what you want a bit before it gets like, people just start, because it'll get edited. Anyway, never mind. All right, but I could go on and on. I'm now thinking the fact that you're at the rep, that means you're going to have like technical things. You could have lights.
I could have lights. Yes, I could have technical things.
That's huge.
I mean, again, like they haven't, like we've had conversations. We don't have like an agreement yet. Like I'm still want to bring them something that I feel really proud of, but they've been very supportive. And
no, I think a lot of people would be open to you. That's the pressure of it. I think too, of like everyone would be like, yeah, come on in. What are you going to say?
Yeah.
And if you hadn't, yeah, okay, that's exciting.
Yeah. Well, let's stay in touch about it. And in the meantime, thank you for this conversation. It's been super fun. Where can my audience hear you, find out more about you, all of that?
They can just come over. I'm in Santa Monica. I'm in my garage a lot of times, just painting. I am on, I'm big on Instagram, which is kind of embarrassing to me still, that I still like it so much.
You're a visual person. Yeah.
I'm very visual. And then I'm very into art right now. I'm doing a lot of, like, the next show I'm going to do is it's going to be like art and stories and stuff.
So what's your handle on Instagram?
Instagram is Lauren Weedman.
Okay.
And then I also have an art Instagram called This One Is Titled.
Okay.
So those things.
Cool.
Yeah. But thank you. And this is what I had no idea. I thought we were going to talk about makeup. I thought you were obsessed with makeup. I was wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah, of all the people in the world. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
totally.
Thank you so much.